Hi guys, by this time you should be finished with the lesson 6 of grammar in your textbook. You should be finished with the pages in your workbook to study this grammar. So this lesson is just a little review before the quiz of expressions of time for telling stories in the past. And when I give this presentation, I'm going to use 3 examples. The first example is Aram. Aram's story from the textbook, if you remember, is about this man who moves to the US. Then we have Arnold's story. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger. That will be one of our examples. And the last example is this familiar person. It will be a story from myself. Let's start. Part 1 of this presentation talks about the word in. Part 2 talks about the word later, and Part 3 talks about ago. Let's look at the word in. In your book you have a table that looks like this, and I want to look just at this part in the bottom of the table. It says in July or in the fall. Use the word in to talk about a big unit of time, like a month, a season, or a year. This is the time that the event happened. So, for example, in Aram's story, I can choose any of these things, but if I choose this one, I would say in June 2015, Aram started English classes. Here, in 1968, Arnold moved to the US, and this would be the same if I chose 1967 or 1947. I would say in 1967 or in 1947. And for my own story, I could say in 1997, Tara graduated from high school. So in, you already know and you already use. It's pretty easy. The next word you need to know is later, and you have this explanation in the right side of the chart. This chart is on page 156 of your book. It says 1 month later, 2 days later, a week later, etc. Use the word later to show how much time passed between 2 events in a story. So if you talked about one thing that happened, you want to go to the next thing, then you use the word later. In Aram's story, I will start by saying in May 2015, Aram came to the US, and then I go from this to the next event, and I can see that the difference here is from May to June. So that's 1 month. So when I make my sentence, I will say 1 month later, he started English classes. If I want to go from this event in June to this event in January, I would count the months. June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. That's 7 months. 7 months later, he got his first job. So I could continue this story and tell all of the other things that happen with the word later if I want. In Arnold's story, I would start and I could say here, in 1968, Arnold moved to the US, and then from 1968 to 1970s, 2 years. 2 years later, he starred in his first movie, Hercules in New York. What happened next? Well, this is 12 years difference. 12 years later, he starred in the famous movie, The Terminator. For myself, in 1997, Tara graduated from high school. 1 year later, she got a job as a cleaner. That's a true story. 2 years later, she got a job in a school. And 2000 to 2002, 2 years later again, she graduated. What do you think about this last part here? From May 2002 to October 2002. So time has passed, but it is less than a year. So May, June, July, August, September, October. That's about 5 months, I think. I would say 5 months later, or maybe about 6 months later, she got her first job as a teacher. So with these arrows that go from one thing to another thing, you're going to use the word later. That's it for now. Go ahead.